12-year-old Jasmine had been looking forward to this day for weeks. She sat in seat 2A of the enormous airplane, her small hands gripping the armrests as other passengers filed past her. The leather seat was so much softer than anything she'd ever sat on before, and there was so much space for her legs. She'd never flown first class before. Actually, she'd only flown a handful of times in her entire life. Her dad had booked this ticket for her. He was supposed to fly with her to London to visit her mom, but something came up with work at the last minute. Some big, important meeting he couldn't miss. Jasmine didn't mind too much. She was 12 now, practically a teenager, and she wanted to prove she could handle flying alone. Besides, her mom would be waiting for her at Heathrow Airport, probably with her favorite chocolate biscuits. She pulled out her phone and sent her dad a quick text. On the plane. Everyone's still boarding. Love you. Then she tucked it away and looked around, trying not to seem too excited or out of place. A flight attendant walked by and smiled at her. First time in first class, sweetie? Jasmine nodded, grinning. Is it that obvious? Just a little, the woman laughed kindly. If you need anything at all during the flight, you just press this button right here, okay? She pointed to the call button above Jasmine's head. Thank you, Jasmine said politely, the way her parents had taught her. The attendant moved on, and Jasmine went back to watching people board. That's when she noticed the woman coming down the aisle. She was maybe in her 50s, wearing expensive-looking clothes and carrying a designer handbag that probably cost more than Jasmine's entire wardrobe. Her blonde hair was pulled back tight, and her face had that pinched look some people get when they're not happy about something. The woman stopped right next to Jasmine's row and checked her boarding pass. Then she looked at Jasmine, then back at her boarding pass. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Excuse me, the woman said, her voice sharp. I believe you're in my row. Jasmine looked up at her. Oh, I'm in 2A. Is your seat 2B? The woman didn't answer right away. She just stood there, staring at Jasmine like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. Finally, she said, Let me see your boarding pass. Something about the way she said it made Jasmine's stomach feel funny, but she reached into her backpack and pulled out her boarding pass anyway. Her dad had printed it out for her and tucked it into a plastic sleeve so it wouldn't get wrinkled. The woman snatched it from her hand and studied it closely, like she was looking for something wrong with it. Jasmine watched her, confused. Was there a problem? The woman said, handing it back. She didn't sound satisfied. She heaved her carry-on bag into the overhead compartment with more force than necessary, then squeezed past Jasmine to get to her seat by the window. As she settled in, she let out a loud sigh. Not just a regular sigh, but the kind that's meant to make sure everyone around you knows you're unhappy. Jasmine tried to ignore it. She pulled out the book she'd brought, a fantasy novel about dragons that she was halfway through. Reading always made her feel better when she was nervous. I just think it's interesting, the woman said suddenly. Jasmine looked up. Sorry? I said I think it's interesting. The woman wasn't looking at her, just staring straight ahead. How they let just anyone into first class these days. It used to mean something, you know. Used to be reserved for people who actually belonged here. Jasmine felt her face get hot. She wasn't totally sure what the woman meant, but the way she said it made it sound like an insult. I have a ticket, she said quietly. Oh, I'm sure you do. The woman finally turned to look at her, and there was something mean in her eyes. I'm just saying, when I was young, children didn't fly first class. Especially not alone. Your parents must have saved up for quite a while for this ticket. There was something in the way she said your parents that made it sound like a question she didn't want to ask out loud. Jasmine knew exactly what the woman was really asking, and it made her chest feel tight. My seat is correct, Jasmine said, trying to keep her voice steady. If there's a problem, you can ask the flight attendant. Oh, there's no problem with the seat assignment, the woman said, pulling out a magazine from the seat pocket. I'm just making conversation. You know, wondering how a young girl like you ended up in first class. Did you win a contest or something? Jasmine didn't answer. She went back to her book, but the words on the page blurred together. She couldn't concentrate anymore. The woman wasn't done. She flagged down a passing flight attendant, a young man with a friendly face. Excuse me, the woman said in a loud voice. I just want to confirm that this young lady is supposed to be in this seat. It seems a bit unusual. The flight attendant looked confused. Ma'am, if she's sitting there, then yes, that's her assigned seat. Is there a problem? I just want to make sure there hasn't been some kind of mistake, the woman insisted. Can you check your system? Jasmine felt like shrinking into her seat. Other passengers were starting to look over. The flight attendant, to his credit, remained professional. He pulled out a tablet and checked. Miss Jasmine Thompson, seat 2A confirmed, he said, smiling at Jasmine. Everything is in order. Can I get either of you something to drink before we take off? No, the woman said coldly. I'm okay. Thank you, Jasmine whispered. As the flight attendant walked away, the woman muttered just loud enough for Jasmine to hear. Standards really have dropped. Jasmine blinked hard, trying not to cry. Her dad always told her to hold her head high, no matter what anyone said. He told her that some people would judge her without knowing anything about her. And that said everything about them and nothing about her. But knowing that didn't make it hurt any less. She put her earbuds in and turned on some music, hoping the woman would take the hint and leave her alone. She stared at her book without really reading it, just wanting to disappear. The plane started to taxi toward the runway. Through her music, Jasmine could hear the woman talking to the passenger across the aisle, another older woman. Can you believe they seat children in first class now? She was saying. When I was young, this cabin was for business professionals and people who knew how to conduct themselves. Now it's like a daycare. Jasmine turned her music up louder. She looked out the window as the plane picked up speed, watching the ground fall away beneath them. London suddenly felt very far away, and the flight very long. She had 7 hours to sit next to this woman. She pulled out her phone one last time before they reached cruising altitude and typed out a text to her dad. I'm okay. Plane is taking off. See you soon. She almost told him about the woman next to her but decided against it. He'd only worry, and there was nothing he could do from New York anyway. As the plane climbed higher into the sky, Jasmine closed her eyes and tried to remember what her dad always said. You belong anywhere you choose to be, baby girl. Don't let anyone tell you different. She just wished she felt as confident as those words sounded. An hour into the flight, things only got worse. Jasmine had hoped that once they were in the air, the woman next to her would fall asleep or watch a movie or just leave her alone. But that didn't happen. The woman who Jasmine had started thinking of as the mean lady in her head seemed determined to make the entire flight uncomfortable. Every few minutes there was something new. A loud sigh, a pointed look, a comment that seemed innocent on the surface but felt like a tiny knife. When the flight attendant came by with the lunch service, Jasmine politely asked for the chicken pasta. The mean lady made a show of ordering the most expensive item on the menu, the filet mignon, and then said loud enough for everyone to hear, Well, I suppose when you pay full price for your ticket, you might as well enjoy the premium options. Jasmine felt her cheeks burn. She stared down at her tray table and said nothing. The man across the aisle, an older gentleman with kind eyes, glanced over with a frown. He seemed to notice what was happening, but he didn't say anything. He just gave Jasmine a small, sympathetic smile before going back to his newspaper. When the food arrived, Jasmine tried to eat, but her appetite was gone. The pasta that probably would have tasted amazing any other time now felt like cardboard in her mouth. She forced down a few bites, not wanting to waste it, but eventually gave up and pushed the tray away. Not good enough for you? The mean lady asked, glancing at Jasmine's barely touched plate. I suppose some people don't appreciate what they have. Jasmine wanted to say something back. She wanted to tell this woman that she was being mean for no reason, that she hadn't done anything wrong, that she had every right to be sitting in this seat, but the words stuck in her throat. Her mom always said to respect your elders, and her dad always said to take the high road. So she just pulled her book back out and tried to focus on the words, but the mean lady wasn't finished. You know, she said, turning in her seat to face Jasmine more directly, when I was your age, I knew how to behave in public. My parents made sure of that. They taught me about manners and respect and knowing your place, knowing your place. Those 3 words hung in the air like smoke. Jasmine's hands tightened on her book. She knew what that meant. She'd heard those words before, or words like them. Her history teacher had talked about them. Her grandmother had stories about them. They were words that people used when they wanted to make you feel small, when they wanted to remind you that they thought you didn't belong. I have manners, Jasmine said quietly, still not looking up from her book. My parents taught me to be polite and respectful to everyone. Did they now? The woman's voice was dripping with fake sweetness. And did they also teach you about appropriate behavior in first class? Because there are certain expectations you understand. This isn't like flying economy. The woman across the aisle, the one the mean lady had been chatting with earlier, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She looked like she wanted to say something but wasn't quite brave enough to get involved. Jasmine felt tears starting to build behind her eyes, but she blinked them back hard. She would not cry. She would not give this woman the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She reached for her water bottle, her hand shaking slightly. As she brought it to her lips, the plane hit a small patch of turbulence. Nothing major, just a little bump, but it was enough to make her hand jerk. A few drops of water splashed out and landed on the armrest between her and the mean lady. "Oh, for heaven's sake," the mean lady exclaimed, jerking her arm away like the water was acid. "Do you see what I mean? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Careless, clumsy, completely inappropriate." "I'm sorry," Jasmine said quickly, grabbing a napkin to wipe up the few drops of water. "It was the turbulence, I didn't mean to." "There's always an excuse, isn't there?" The woman cut her off. "First it's the turbulence, then it's something else. Some people just don't know how to handle themselves in refined environments." A flight attendant, a different one this time, a woman with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, walked by and noticed the commotion. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, her voice professional but concerned. "Actually, no," the mean lady said before Jasmine could respond. "I've been very patient, but I really must say something. I don't think it's appropriate to have unaccompanied children in first class. It's disruptive, and frankly, this young lady doesn't seem capable of managing herself properly." The flight attendant's eyebrows went up slightly. "Ma'am, this passenger is flying within all airline regulations. Unaccompanied minors are permitted in first class with proper documentation," which she has. "Regulations are one thing," the woman sniffed. "Standards are another. In my day, first class meant something. It meant you were flying with other professionals, other people of a certain caliber. Now it seems like anyone can buy their way in." The way she said anyone made Jasmine's stomach twist. She knew exactly what the woman meant, even if she wasn't saying it directly. The flight attendant's expression tightened. "I assure you, ma'am, all our first-class passengers belong here. If you have a specific complaint about behavior, I'm happy to address it. But if this is simply about another passenger's presence, then I'm afraid there's nothing to be done." "Well," the mean lady huffed, "I'll be writing to the airline about this. I paid good money for this ticket, and I expect a certain level of comfort. Being seated next to a child is not what I signed up for. You're welcome to share your feedback with customer service," the flight attendant said politely. She turned to Jasmine with a much warmer expression. "Sweetie, are you doing okay? Do you need anything?" Jasmine shook her head, not trusting her voice. If she tried to talk right now, she might start crying, and she didn't want to do that in front of everyone. "Okay," the flight attendant said gently. "But if you need anything at all, you just push that call button, all right? Don't hesitate." As she walked away, the mean lady muttered under her breath, "Great. Now I'm the bad guy for having standards." Jasmine put her earbuds back in, but she didn't turn on any music. She just wanted something to hide behind. She pulled her book up higher, using it like a shield, and tried to make herself as small as possible in her seat. Through her earbuds, which weren't playing anything, she could still hear the mean lady talking to the woman across the aisle again. "I'm not trying to be unkind," she was saying. "I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. There's a reason these cabins used to be more exclusive. Standards matter. Presentation matters. You can't just throw any random person in first class and expect the same experience." Random person, as if Jasmine was just some object that had been carelessly tossed into the wrong place. Jasmine's chest felt tight. She wanted to call her dad, but her phone was on airplane mode. She wanted to talk to her mom, but London was still 5 hours away. She wanted to be anywhere but here, sitting next to this horrible woman who seemed to hate her for no reason at all. Or maybe not for no reason. Maybe for a very specific reason that the woman would never say out loud, but that Jasmine could feel in every word, every look, every sigh. She glanced out the window at the clouds below. Somewhere down there was the ocean, miles and miles of water between her and home. She'd never felt so far away from everything familiar and safe. Then something new happened that made everything even worse. The mean lady pulled out her phone. Jasmine noticed because the woman made a point of angling herself toward Jasmine, like she was taking a picture of something. "What are you doing?" Jasmine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Oh, don't mind me," the woman said with a fake smile. I'm just documenting my flight experience. For social media, my followers love hearing about my travels and the interesting people I meet. The way she said interesting people made Jasmine feel sick. Was this woman really taking pictures of her? To post online? To complain about her to strangers on the internet? Please don't take pictures of me, Jasmine said, trying to sound firm but hearing her voice shake. It's a public space, dear, the woman said coolly. I can take pictures of whatever I like. Jasmine turned away, pulling her legs up onto the seat and curling into herself as much as she could. She felt completely helpless. She didn't know what to do. Should she call the flight attendant again? Would that just make things worse? Would the woman accuse her of causing problems? 5 more hours to London. 5 more hours sitting next to someone who made her feel like she didn't belong, like she was somehow wrong just for existing in this space. Jasmine closed her eyes and tried to remember her dad's face. His voice, the way he always made her feel safe and loved and like she could handle anything. But right now, she wasn't so sure she could handle this. 2 hours into the flight, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be making a brief stop in Boston to pick up some additional passengers before continuing on to London. We apologize for any inconvenience. Our ground time should be approximately 30 minutes. Jasmine had forgotten that this flight made a stop in Boston. She'd been so focused on getting away from the mean lady, even just for a bathroom break, that the announcement almost felt like a gift. Maybe she could talk to a flight attendant privately. Maybe they could move her to a different seat, even if it meant going to economy. She didn't care anymore. She just wanted to get away. When the plane landed and reached the gate, several passengers got up to stretch their legs. The mean lady squeezed past Jasmine without a word, heading toward the bathroom. As soon as she was gone, Jasmine let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The flight attendant with the dark hair, the one who'd been kind earlier, stopped by her row. "How are you holding up, sweetheart?" she asked quietly. Jasmine wanted to say she was fine, but the words wouldn't come out. Instead, her eyes filled with tears and she had to look away, embarrassed. The flight attendant knelt down in the aisle so she was at Jasmine's eye level. "Hey, it's okay. I can see that woman is giving you a hard time. Do you want me to see if we can move you to a different seat?" Jasmine wiped her eyes quickly. "Would that be okay? I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not causing trouble." "She is." The attendant patted her hand. "Let me see what I can do, okay? We're boarding some new passengers, so maybe something will open up." Jasmine nodded, feeling a tiny bit of hope for the first time in hours. As the new passengers started boarding, Jasmine watched them come down the aisle. Most of them turned toward the economy section, but a few headed toward first class. There was a businessman with silver hair, a woman in a power suit talking on her phone, and then a man in an expensive dark suit stepped into the first-class cabin, and something about him made everyone take notice. He wasn't especially tall, but he carried himself with this quiet confidence that made him seem important. His suit probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Behind him was a younger man carrying a briefcase, clearly an assistant of some kind. The flight attendant straightened up immediately. The head flight attendant, a man Jasmine hadn't seen before, personally greeted the new passenger. "Mr. Thompson, welcome aboard. We're honored to have you flying with us today. Your seat is right here, 2C. Jasmine's heart nearly stopped. Thompson. That was her last name. The man looked up, scanning the first-class cabin, and his eyes landed on seat 2A. On Jasmine. His expression changed instantly from professional and distant to surprised and concerned. "Jasmine," he said. "Baby girl, what are you doing on this flight?" Jasmine's mouth fell open. "Dad!" "But you said you couldn't come. You had that meeting." Her father quickly moved toward her, his assistant stepping aside. "I finished early and caught this flight instead. I wanted to surprise you." His eyes narrowed as he took in her face, the redness around her eyes, the way she looked small and scared in her seat. "What's wrong? Have you been crying?" Before Jasmine could answer, the mean lady returned from the bathroom. She stopped short when she saw the man standing in the aisle, clearly someone important based on how the crew was treating him, but she didn't make the connection yet. "Excuse me," she said in that sharp voice of hers. "You're blocking the aisle." Jasmine's father turned to look at her and his expression was unreadable. "I'm sorry, I'll move in just a moment. I'm just checking on my daughter." The word hung in the air, like a bomb waiting to explode. The mean lady's face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 Seconds, confusion, disbelief, realization, horror, panic. Your daughter? She stammered. Yes. Jasmine's father's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. My daughter, who I see, has been crying. Jasmine, honey, what happened? Jasmine didn't want to say anything. She didn't want to cause more trouble. But her father was looking at her with those eyes that said he already knew something was wrong and he wasn't going to let it go. It's okay, Dad. It's nothing. It's not nothing if you've been crying. He looked at the mean lady, then back at Jasmine. Does this have anything to do with your seatmate? The mean lady's face had gone completely white. There was just a small misunderstanding. I wasn't talking to you, Jasmine's father said quietly. I was talking to my daughter. The whole first-class cabin had gone silent. Everyone was watching now. The businessman across the aisle had put down his newspaper. The woman in the power suit had gotten off her phone. Even the passengers in the rows behind were craning their necks to see what was happening. Jasmine's father sat down in the empty seat across the aisle, the one that was supposed to be his. But he didn't break eye contact with the mean lady. I'm going to ask you a question, he said, his voice still calm but with an edge that made everyone listen, and I want an honest answer. Have you been giving my daughter a hard time during this flight? No, I was just... We had a small disagreement about... I'm not asking you, he interrupted. I'm asking the people who witnessed it. He looked around at the other passengers. Did anyone here see what happened between this woman and my daughter? The kind older gentleman across the aisle cleared his throat. I did, sir. And yes, she's been making rude comments to your daughter for the past 2 hours, questioning whether she belonged in first class, making remarks about standards and manners. It was quite uncomfortable to witness. The woman who had been sitting across from the mean lady spoke up too, her voice guilty. I heard it too. She was being very unkind. Jasmine's father nodded slowly. He pressed the call button above his head. The head flight attendant appeared almost instantly. Yes, Mr. Thompson? Is there a problem? Yes, there is. Jasmine's father's voice was steady and clear. I've just learned that my 12-year-old daughter has been harassed by her seatmate for the past 2 hours. Comments about whether she belongs in first class, questioning how her family could afford the ticket, taking photos of her without permission. I'd like to know what your airline's policy is on passenger harassment. The flight attendant's face went serious. We have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment, Mr. Thompson. If what you're saying is true, it's true, the older gentleman said firmly. I witnessed it myself. So did I, the powersuit woman added. It was definitely harassment. The mean lady tried one more time. This is all a misunderstanding. I was just making conversation. I didn't mean anything by it. I certainly didn't know who her father was, and that's exactly the problem, Jasmine's father said, standing up now. His voice wasn't loud, but everyone in first class could hear every word. You didn't know who I was, so you felt comfortable treating my daughter poorly. You made assumptions about her based on how she looks, about whether she belonged in first class, about whether her family could afford to be here. And when she was polite and tried to ignore you, you escalated. You took photos of her to mock her on social media. He turned to the flight attendant. I want to file a formal complaint, and I want to know what steps you're going to take to ensure my daughter feels safe for the rest of this flight. The mean lady was trying to make herself smaller in her seat now, the complete opposite of how she'd been acting earlier. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... You meant every word, Jasmine's father said, looking at her directly now. You just didn't think there would be consequences. You thought you could bully a child because you assumed she had no one to stand up for her. He sat down next to Jasmine, putting his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him, feeling safe for the first time since the flight began. It's okay, baby girl, he said softly. I'm here now. No one's going to treat you like that anymore. The head flight attendant looked at the mean lady with an expression that could freeze water. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me. We need to discuss your behavior and determine the appropriate course of action. As the mean lady stood up, she tried one last time to apologize to Jasmine, her voice shaking. I'm so sorry. I really am. I didn't mean... But Jasmine just turned away, pressing closer to her father. She didn't want to hear it. The apology felt empty, forced, only coming because the woman finally realized who Jasmine's father was. The cabin was silent except for the sound of the mean lady gathering her things and following the flight attendant toward the back of the plane. Jasmine's Father kissed the top of her head. I'm so proud of you for holding it together. That took real strength. I just did what you taught me, Jasmine whispered. I tried to take the high road. You did. And now we're going to make sure that woman learns that actions have consequences. The head flight attendant returned about 10 minutes later, walking directly to where Jasmine and her father were sitting. His expression was professional but serious. Mr. Thompson, may I speak with you privately for a moment? Jasmine's father squeezed her hand. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of my daughter. She's been through enough today. She deserves to know what's happening. The flight attendant nodded. Of course. I want you to know that we take this situation very seriously. I've spoken with the passenger in question and reviewed our security footage. We have cameras throughout the cabin, and while we don't record audio, we can see the physical interactions and body language. Combined with the witness statements, it's clear that your daughter was subjected to sustained harassment. What happens now? Jasmine's father asked. We've moved the passenger to economy class for the remainder of the flight. She'll be seated away from other passengers as much as possible. When we land in London, airport security will be notified, and she'll be met at the gate. Additionally, we're filing a formal incident report that will result in her being placed on our airline's watch list pending a full investigation. Watch list? Jasmine asked quietly. The flight attendant looked at her kindly. It means we'll be reviewing whether she should be allowed to fly with us in the future. Based on what happened today, I can tell you that it's very likely she'll be banned from our airline permanently. Jasmine's father nodded slowly. And what about my daughter? What's the airline doing to make this right for her? We'd like to offer a full refund for both tickets, of course. And we're providing complimentary upgrades for any future flights for both of you. But more importantly, I want to personally apologize to you, Jasmine. He looked directly at her. You should never have been treated that way on our aircraft. You have every right to be in first class, and you conducted yourself with far more grace and maturity than many adults would have. I'm sorry we didn't intervene sooner. Jasmine didn't know what to say. She just nodded. After the flight attendant left, her father turned to face her fully. Jazz, I need you to tell me everything that happened. From the beginning. So she did. She told him about the woman checking her boarding pass like she didn't believe it was real, about the comments about standards and knowing your place, about the loud remarks to other passengers, about the water spill and how the woman made it seem like Jasmine had done something terrible, about the photos. With each thing Jasmine described, her father's jaw got tighter. By the time she finished, he looked like he was working very hard to stay calm. I'm sorry, Dad, Jasmine said. I know you taught me to handle things on my own, and I tried, but… Stop. Her father put both hands on her shoulders, looking her right in the eyes. You have nothing to apologize for, nothing, do you understand me? You handled this exactly right. You were polite. You tried to diffuse the situation. You didn't escalate. What that woman did was not your fault, not even a little bit. But she kept saying I didn't belong, and she was wrong. His voice was firm but gentle. Listen to me, baby girl. You belong anywhere you choose to be. You belong in first class. You belong in boardrooms. You belong in universities. You belong anywhere you want to go in this world. And anyone who tells you different is speaking from their own fears and prejudices, not from truth. Jasmine felt tears coming again. But this time they were different. They were relief. I know this wasn't the first time someone has made you feel like you don't belong, her father continued. And I wish I could tell you it'll be the last. But it won't be. There will always be people who make assumptions about you based on how you look, where you come from, or what they think they know about you. And that's not fair, and it's not right, but it's real. So what do I do? Jasmine asked. You do exactly what you did today. You hold your head high. You know your worth. And when someone tries to make you feel small, you remember that their opinion of you doesn't define you. You define you. He smiled a little. And when you need backup, you call your dad, and I'll be on the next plane. Every single time. Jasmine managed a small laugh through her tears. You can't always be on the next plane. Watch me try. A flight attendant came by with drinks and snacks, giving them both warm smiles. Anything you need, just let us know, she said to Jasmine. Anything at all. After she left, Jasmine's father pulled out his phone. I'm going to send your mom a text letting her know I'm on the flight with you. She's going to be surprised. He paused, then looked at Jasmine. Do you want me to tell her what happened? Jasmine thought about it. Not yet. Maybe we can tell her together when we land? Whatever you want, baby girl. They sat quietly for a moment, and then Jasmine asked the question that had been bothering her since her father sat down. "Dad, do you think she would have acted that way if she knew who you were from the beginning?" Her father sighed. "Probably not. But that's exactly the problem. People shouldn't treat you well because of who I am, or how much money we have. They should treat you well because you're a human being who deserves respect. Period. But she didn't even know me. How could she hate me so much without knowing anything about me? She doesn't hate you, Jazz. She hates what you represent to her. You're young, you're black, and you were sitting in a space she thinks should be reserved for people like her. Some people have spent their whole lives believing they're superior to others, and when they see evidence that contradicts that belief, it makes them uncomfortable. So they lash out. That's stupid, Jasmine said. Her father laughed, a real laugh this time. Yes, it is. It's very stupid. But unfortunately, stupid doesn't stop people from being cruel. The older gentleman who had spoken up earlier leaned across the aisle. Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to say something to your daughter. He looked at Jasmine. Young lady, I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I should have said something the moment that woman started harassing you. I was a coward, and you deserved better. Jasmine blinked, surprised. It's okay. No, it's not okay, the man said firmly. I'm a retired judge, and I spent my whole career preaching about justice and standing up for what's right. But today, when it mattered, I sat there like a bump on a log because I didn't want to get involved. That was wrong of me. You showed more courage in 2 hours than I showed in my entire flight. Thank you for saying that, Jasmine's father said, shaking the man's hand. And thank you for speaking up when I asked. That mattered. It was the least I could do. The judge settled back in his seat, but he gave Jasmine one more nod of respect. The woman in the power suit spoke up next. I'm sorry too. I heard what was happening and I should have said something. We all should have. It's not enough to disagree with racism privately. We have to speak up when we see it. Jasmine felt overwhelmed by all the attention, but in a good way this time. These strangers were apologizing to her, acknowledging what had happened, treating her like she mattered. Her father seemed to notice her discomfort. Thank you all for your support, he said to the other passengers. It means a lot to both of us. As things settled down and people went back to their movies and books, Jasmine leaned against her father's shoulder. Dad? Yeah, baby girl? I'm glad you're here. Me too. I'm always glad to be wherever you are. He kissed the top of her head. Now how about we watch a movie together? They've got that new animated one you wanted to see. Okay. Jasmine felt herself relaxing for the first time since boarding the plane. Her father was here. She was safe. Everything was going to be okay. But as she reached for the remote control for the entertainment system, she had another thought. Dad, what's going to happen to that lady? Like, really happen? Her father was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. She's going to face consequences for her actions. She'll probably be banned from this airline. She might face legal consequences if we decide to pursue them. And hopefully, just hopefully, she'll learn something from this experience. Do you think she will? Learn something, I mean. I don't know, her father said honestly. Some people change when they face consequences. Some people double down and become more bitter. But that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to stand up for ourselves and speak the truth about what happened. What she does with that is up to her. Jasmine nodded, understanding. I think I want to pursue the legal stuff. Not because I want to be mean, but because if she did this to me, she's probably done it to other people, and she might do it again if nothing really happens. Her father smiled, pride shining in his eyes. That's very mature of you. And you're right. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. We'll talk to a lawyer when we get home, okay? Okay. They queued up the movie, sharing one set of headphones with a splitter, the way they used to when Jasmine was little. And for the rest of the flight, Jasmine felt like herself again. Not small, not unwelcome, not wrong, just herself, and that was enough. The plane touched down at Heathrow Airport just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Jasmine watched through the window as they taxied to the gate, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Relief that the flight was over, gratitude that her dad had been there, but also something else, something harder to name, a kind of sadness that this had happened at all, mixed with a new understanding of the world that she couldn't unknow. As passengers started gathering their belongings, Jasmine noticed 2 security officers boarding the plane. They walked straight to the economy section. A few minutes later, they emerged with the mean lady between them. She wasn't in handcuffs or anything dramatic like that, but her face was red and blotchy from crying, and she kept her head down as they escorted her past first class. For just a second, their eyes met. The woman looked like she wanted to say something, but one of the officers gently guided her forward. Jasmine turned away. She didn't need an apology from someone who was only sorry because she got caught. "You okay?" her father asked, noticing the exchange. "Yeah," Jasmine said, and she meant it. "I'm okay." They were among the last to leave the plane. The flight crew lined up near the exit to say goodbye, and each one made a point to speak to Jasmine personally. "You take care of yourself," the head flight attendant said, shaking her hand like she was an adult. "And remember, you belong anywhere you want to be." "Thank you," Jasmine said. "For everything." In the terminal, Jasmine's mom was waiting at arrivals. When she saw both of them coming through the gate together, her face lit up with surprise and confusion. "David, I thought you couldn't make it." She hugged him, then pulled back. "Wait, what's going on? Why are you both—" She looked at Jasmine's face more closely. "Baby, have you been crying?" "What happened?" They found a quiet corner in the airport, and together, Jasmine and her father told her everything. Her mom's expression went from concern to angry to heartbroken and back to angry again as the story unfolded. "That woman did what?" Her voice was tight. "She took pictures of my baby. She harassed her for 2 hours?" "Mom, it's okay now," Jasmine said. "Dad handled it." "It is not okay." Her mom pulled Jasmine into a fierce hug. "None of that is okay. I don't care what they did to that woman, it's not enough." "We're going to take legal action," Jasmine's father said calmly. "I've already contacted our lawyer, and the airline is conducting a full investigation. She'll face consequences." Her mom took a deep breath, clearly trying to calm herself down. "I'm sorry I wasn't there, baby. I'm so sorry you had to go through that alone." "I wasn't alone," Jasmine said. "Not really. Dad showed up, and some of the other passengers spoke up, and I was stronger than I thought I could be." Her mom cupped her face in both hands. "You are the strongest person I know, but you shouldn't have to be that strong at 12 years old." They took a taxi to her mom's flat in central London. During the ride, Jasmine stared out the window at the city lights, thinking about everything that had happened. Her father's words kept echoing in her head. "You belong anywhere you choose to be." Over the next few days, the story started spreading in ways Jasmine hadn't expected. Her father, it turned out, had a pretty significant social media following. Not because he posted constantly, but because when he did post, people listened. He was the founder of a tech company worth billions, and he'd built a reputation for being outspoken about inequality and justice. 3 days after the flight, he made a post. He didn't name the woman or the specific flight, but he told the story of what happened to his daughter. He talked about the casual racism that black children face every day. He talked about the assumptions people make based on skin color. He talked about the importance of speaking up when you witness discrimination, and he specifically thanked the passengers who had finally found their voices. The post went viral within hours. Hundreds of thousands of people shared it. News outlets picked it up. Other parents shared their own stories of their children facing similar treatment. The hashtag #SheBelongs started trending, with black girls and women sharing their experiences of being made to feel out of place in spaces they had every right to occupy. The airline released a public statement confirming that they had permanently banned the passenger in question and were reviewing their training procedures for handling discrimination complaints. They announced a new zero-tolerance policy and promised to do better. But not everyone was supportive. Some people accused Jasmine's father of playing the race card or making a big deal out of nothing. Some said that the woman was the real victim, that she'd lost everything over a simple misunderstanding. Some claimed the whole thing was made up for attention. Jasmine read some of the negative comments one evening when she borrowed her mom's tablet. Each one felt like a little punch to the stomach. Her father found her crying in her room. He sat down next to her on the bed. "You've been reading the comments, haven't you?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Give me the tablet," he said gently. She handed it over and he closed it without looking. "Jazz, listen to me. When you speak truth, especially truth about racism or injustice, there will always be people who try to silence you. They'll say you're lying, or exaggerating or being too sensitive. They do that because your truth makes them uncomfortable. It challenges their view of the world. But what if they're right? Jasmine asked. What if I'm making too big a deal out of it? Were you scared on that plane? Yes. Did that woman make you feel like you didn't belong? Yes. Did she take away hours of your peace and make you cry? Yeah, then it was a big deal. Your feelings are valid. Your experience was real, and no one gets to tell you otherwise. He put his arm around her. The people who are attacking you online? They're showing you exactly who they are. They're telling you that they value that woman's comfort over your dignity. That tells you everything you need to know about them. I wish none of this had happened, Jasmine said quietly. I know, but it did happen. And now you have a choice. You can let it make you smaller, or you can let it make you stronger and more determined to change things. You can use your voice to help other kids who might go through the same thing. Over the next few weeks, Jasmine found herself thinking about that choice a lot. She was invited to speak at her school about her experience. At first, she didn't want to, but her parents said it was up to her, no pressure either way. In the end, she decided to do it. Standing in front of her classmates and teachers, Jasmine told her story. She talked about feeling scared and alone on that plane. She talked about how hard it was to stay calm when someone was being cruel. She talked about the importance of speaking up when you see someone being mistreated. I learned something important that day, she said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. I learned that silence helps the bully, never the victim. The people who sat there and watched me being harassed for 2 hours, they weren't being neutral. They were choosing a side by not choosing a side. And when they finally did speak up, it made all the difference. She paused, looking around at all the faces watching her. So if you see someone being treated unfairly, don't wait for someone else to say something. Don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the person who speaks up. Be the person who stands up. Because that person might save someone from feeling alone in their worst moment. The assembly room erupted in applause. Her principal announced that the school would be implementing new anti-bullying and anti-discrimination programs, with Jasmine's help in designing them. That night, Jasmine video called her father back in New York. Dad, I did the assembly today. I heard. Your mom told me. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. How did it feel? Scary, but also good. Like maybe something good can come from something bad. That's exactly right. You're taking your pain and turning it into purpose. That's what brave people do. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for getting on that plane. Thank you for standing up for me. Jazz, I will always stand up for you. Always, but you know what? You were already standing up for yourself before I got there. You held your ground with grace and dignity. I just provided backup. After they hung up, Jasmine pulled out her journal, something her therapist had suggested she start after the incident. She wrote about the assembly, about the conversations she'd had with classmates afterward, about the emails she'd received from other kids thanking her for sharing her story. On the last page, she wrote something her father had told her, words she wanted to remember forever. You belong anywhere you choose to be. Your worth is not determined by other people's prejudices, and when you use your voice to speak truth, you give other people permission to use theirs too. Jasmine closed the journal and looked out her window at the London night sky. Somewhere up there, planes were flying, carrying people to new places, new experiences, new stories. She hoped that maybe, just maybe, because she'd spoken up, those flights would be a little kinder. Those passengers would be a little braver. And other kids like her would know that they belonged. No matter what anyone else said, she belonged. She had always belonged. And nothing anyone said or did could ever change that truth.